Electric Boogaloo.
Boogaloo, shrimp.
Are we allowed to really say Boogaloo anymore? It feels like something I shouldn't be allowed to say anymore.
No, man. No. Hell no. What? What?
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Are they in the proper approach pattern for today?
Negative.
Hold the weapon! Now! Charge the lightning field!
Welcome back to Dispatch HX. This is Jake.
I'm Skip.
He's Skip. We are back in the books. Our noses are pressed firmly in the stacks.
No human could stack books like that.
Nobody's seen this type of vertical book stacking since the Tunguska Blast of 1908.
Somebody sneezes, you want to take a sample? Yes, we're doing part 2 of our books of myth and lore and mystery. Last week's episode gave us a bunch of information on one conceptual book, the Necronomicon, in all of its facets, and then a few others, but there are so many more we need to get to. We're going to try and flesh out some of the fun ones this time.
Indeed. Let us hear from Dr. Ray Stantz for a second.
Oh, there you go.
I can't...
Is he a doctor? I thought Bacon was the only actual, PhD.
Well, in this official Ghostbusters edition of the book,
wow,
it says Dr. Ray Stantz, so...
Okay.
He could have been awarded that from a university.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, after the whole Ghostbusters 2 thing, yeah, maybe.
I mean, speaking of someone who got edited out of this episode, I'm sure Trump will get a doctorate from Wackadoo U.
Well, Wackadoo U? Sure, fine, whatever, yeah.
Well, I said Wackadoo, but
the University of George Goober Lindsay is going to hand him a fucking PhD, I'm sure, but...
I'd imagine some Florida university is going to give him all the degrees honorarily. Anyway, Mr. Stantz. It became apparent to me some years ago that the average citizen does not have the tools at hand to easily identify any paranormal entity that may be manifesting in their vicinity at a given time. Considering that such phenomena are on the rise in our world, I'm sure you can understand my concern. Knowledge is a powerful asset and can make all the difference in surviving a paranormal encounter unscathed. For help in this regard, my fellow Ghostbusters and I have most often turned to the seminal work of John Tobin, whose eponymous spirit guide has provided with us a wealth of insight into the realm of the supernatural. However, the unabridged edition weighs in at somewhere around 35 pounds, which makes it very comprehensive, but not convenient as a go-to reference for John and Jane Q. Public. And that's how inspiration struck. And thus, they went on to make a pocket Tobin spirit guide that the Ghostbusters and their like could carry into the field.
Mm-hmm.
But the Tobin Spirit Guide was the go-to book in the Ghostbusters universe for identifying and categorizing and cataloging all ghosts and ghouls and goblins and the sort.
And combating.
And yes, giving information for combating, capturing, and containing said ghosties.
Mm-hmm. There's a big leap there, considering the fact that the containment system that Egon conjures up with Ray has always been baffling to me because, so they've proven that ghosts are real. Fine. But it's not spiritual. It's scientific. Fine. How do they know what to do with that? There was no scientist that came out and said, ghosts are electromagnetic energy on this wavelength. Even John Tobin didn't say that. So Egon came up with this crazy system. What, did he just roll dice and then he figured out the trap?
It was always my understanding that the thing that they actually talk about in the first one is proving the existence of the spirit plane.
Right.
Identifying the electromagnetic, signatures of said entities on said plane and being able to utilize that to then capture these entities. I always wanted them to get into, okay, so are all of these entities in all of us? And then only at the point of death is that entity then separated from the mortal coil,
right,
into our realm?
Yeah, because what human dude ended up being Slimer or Muncher?
Would you like to know?
Go ahead.
Our best guess at the ghost's origins, the ghost being the green ghost, aka Slimer, which is a Class 5 full-roaming vapor,
Sure is.
dates back to the apocalyptic cult of Gozer, which held meetings at the Sedgwick in the early 1920s, finally wearing out its welcome when an animal sacrifice went awry. According to our research, it's most likely that the cult's rituals conjured a, quote, hungry spirit, a ghost that could never sate its inhuman appetite as a destructive punishment for the world.
So it was not originally human.
It doesn't appear so. As opposed to something like the Scoleri brothers, which were distinctly...
Get in the chair!
Tried him for murder! But I mean, that's another one of those things. You have distinctly non-human entities, and you have humans that persist on past death. How do those two relate to each other? Are they the same?
Right, and then you get into the weird world of the Hellhound Devil Dogs, who were humans that transform into other beings in control of Gozer. Like, yeah, that's a whole other... You're dealing with so many categories of stuff. I guess you're going to need a guide for it.
Yeah, right. And you get these big questions in almost all sci-fi fantasy that you just kind of have to let go at some point. You know, it's like in Harry Potter. They celebrate Christmas. So was Jesus around? Was Jesus a wizard?
Yeah. In the Bible, I guess they say that magic and witchcraft exists, so...
Oh, it most certainly exists. I mean, there's literal exorcisms. There's fighting demons.
True.
There are,
That's more Christian than... That's more...
But if there's Christianity in the Harry Potter universe, if wizards follow the teachings of Jesus Christ...
Right.
And the Bible to then celebrate that holiday, they say Christmas. They're not just saying,
Winter solstice.
Yeah. They're coming out giving gifts, and what is Santa Claus in their world? What does Jesus mean?
Well, that's a great question in and of itself, but this is the kind of debate we had over the book Fables, by the way. I know for a fact in the Harry Potter universe, trans people aren't real. So it's really easy to edit out a lot of reality.
Yeah, no, some things they just move past. Yeah, it's like when I have questions about Pokemon, I'm like, do they talk? Where do they come from? Do they mate? Do they have souls?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of questions, and there's like, stop, think, and just enjoy it.
Detective Pikachu does a really good job of addressing some of those things. But yeah, where do they come from? And how is it still our world? How is it still our universe? Like, the world would be so vastly different. But
yeah, it's always a big problem I have when they have major things like that happen. It's like in the latest Jurassic Park.
Ugh.
There are literal dinosaurs everywhere. But life and society just continues on like nothing's happened.
Yeah. In Jurassic World, as soon as they showed that giant aquatic dinosaur, I was like, world over. That's it. Ecosystem done. Because, like, how are you going to contain that thing? It's almost the size of a blue whale, and it eats everything. So if it gets out, that's it. And they're keeping it in a pen like they did with Shamu. And it can get out.
Yeah. And is there just one?
Right.
Also, whose idea was to make that thing?
Well, they didn't know what they got until they got it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, what mosquito bit that thing underwater? And also...
Good effing question.
Mosquitoes didn't evolve until like 20 million years after that. So that's fun.
Really? There were no mosquitoes in...
There were no mosquitoes in the Jurassic, Cretaceous, or... Mosquitoes did not evolve until well after the dinosaurs died.
Was it like a precursor to a mosquito?
Nope.
Man, really?
Yeah, really.
Oh.
Nothing in those books or movies is possible.
That's not fun.
No, it's not. Especially since that first book
that.
is good and the first movie is good. The second book and the second movie are terrible. And then we all know how it goes from there, but...
Oh, I got it. Time travel.
Oh, so we're back to La Brea, are we?
So John Connor sent this mosquito back in time.
Oh, no. Now we're in Sound of Thunder territory now. If we travel back in time, a mosquito came with us.
Butterfly wings, my friend.
There were two movies based on that story that came out relatively close to each other. Timeline and Sound of Thunder.
Timeline?
Yeah. It had Paul Walker and...
Gerard Butler?
Was Gerard Butler in that? Shit, I don't even remember. It sucked.
Directed by Richard Donner.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't it?
Oh, no, Timeline's a different book.
Yeah,
it's a team of present-day archaeology and history students who are sent back into medieval France to rescue the professor from the middle of a battle.
But I thought they went back to medieval times and they did the whole Sound of Thunder thing. Not medieval times. I mean,
medieval times.
Is it a Cable Guy reference?
Yes, Billy, it is.
It doesn't matter.
This is one of the few Michael Crichton movies I haven't seen.
God, I've seen most of them, I think. 13,
Well, he's done a lot.
I've seen a lot of ER, that's for sure.
Well, that doesn't count.
Well, it totally does. It's actually more ER than any of the other things he ever did.
He's more ER than Man, Twisted, and Evil.
All cop. So, the Voynich manuscript...
Oh, we're talking about the
subject.
Tobin Spirit Guide.
There you go.
Yeah. So that was written by a gentleman, J.H. Tobin, which either stands for John Horace Tobin or Jonathan Horace Tobin.
Or John Henry Tobin, that'd been more interesting. But he's probably British, so whatever.
Does he have a steel suit and swing a giant hammer?
Yep. Yes. I like how you went to the reference to a reference as your reference, not the original John Henry, but John Henry Irons.
No, we moved past that. Of course.
You know, if they were smart in the Snyderverse, they would have used Jeremy Irons to introduce John Henry Irons because they have the same last name.
That would have been smart.
Well, nothing about those movies was anyway, so you might as well do something.
Sure.
Just keep going.
Anyway, so in the Ghostbusters world, this is the gentleman who wrote their famous book about spirits and ghosts. He is the guy who wrote about cults and demigods and different entities, including Ivor Shandor, the Cult of Gozer, Vince Clortho, Zool.
I'm sure he has a whole chapter on Aleister Crowley, unless he is supposed to be Aleister Crowley. Is he supposed to be Aleister Crowley? I'm not really sure.
So it's my understanding there are multiple histories in canon for Mr. Tobin.
Damn it.
That come from, one, Ghostbusters International, the RPG game back from the late 80s.
That very much like our DC Cities episode, yep.
Exactly. There's an IDW Comics canon history. There's also a video game history. None of these match up or align with each other, all having specific differences. But the one I found it most enjoyable and the one I'm going to base this off of is the RPG from the 80s. It's closest to the actual time the movie came out and less cluttered by other things. And it's the one that most closely resembles an archetype that I think will hit with more people. So, Mr. Tobin was born...
We should also acknowledge that Ghostbusters, the video game, was written by Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd and used all of the original actors and is considered Ghostbusters 3. So, to them, that is canon. So, we should at least keep that in the back of our minds.
This is the 2022 game that has a different canon that's set after the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie.
Ugh.
They don't get into the history of Tobin, and I mean, there's been so many different video games. I think the main video game you were thinking of...
Ghostbusters, the video game. The one that they all did. I think it came out on like Xbox 360 or something.
There's only been one video game.
Well, no, that's what it was called.
You're thinking the 2009 Ghostbusters, the video game from 2009. Yeah, that's the one that was written by Aykroyd and Ramis.
Yeah. Starring Ernie Hudson. Should be top billed.
Yes.
Because he always gets fucked.
No, of course. I'm talking out loud to myself. If they do the voice acting again in the Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed game from 2022, I'm having trouble finding that easily. So how about who gives a shit? And let's move on to what I was talking about.
There you go. I'm going to have fun trying to figure out how to edit that out.
Mr. Tobin was born in London in 1870. He was the only child of a very affluent family and son of a successful businessman. He studied at Oxford, earning degrees in obscure ancient languages and psychology. Do they have an obscure ancient languages degree?
It's like Peter Venkman, though. Psychology and parapsychology.
Exactly. One of those is a definite degree. The other one is like a possible degree at some things, but I don't know if there's a whole obscure ancient languages degree. That seems pretty specific.
Well, it's like I was watching a rerun of Jeopardy the other day, and one of the contestants had graduated with a double degree, and one of them was in, like, advanced thought.
What?
I'm not joking. It was like advanced thought. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's good for liberal arts, I guess.
All right. I have a question. Is the meaning of life, is that an advanced thought? Or is that a basic thought? And does it depend on like how you approach that particular concept?
No, it just means you're a basic bitch if you ask the question. You don't get it. So,
can I get a basic bitch degree? And is that a bachelor or is that an associate's degree?
It's a bachelorette degree and 100%.
No, that would be an actual bachelorette degree. You have to get it only at bachelorettes.
Yeah.
And other stag-related any hen party activities.
Wow, those are like the British terms for that. My mother does the same thing. You mean bachelor, bachelorette? No, the hen party. What are you talking about?
Okay, well, let's be honest. A stag and a hen party are much more evocative and interesting than bachelor and bachelorette party.
But we don't use them in America.
This is a podcast for the world, Skip. This isn't just a U.S. podcast. What have things come to?
What a world we live in. Okay.
So Mr. Tobin worked at a British trading company in Egypt, performing different tasks, blah, blah, blah. After the death of his father, he encountered an Egyptian spirit named Ahagotu, 1899.
It was Moon Knight, as it turned out.
Be better if it was. He then teamed up with his friend Shrewsbury Smith.
Okay.
And they vowed to spend the rest of their lives researching and fighting supernatural entities.
Whoa, that's a movie right there.
I mean, yeah. Who he is a more exciting character in the lore of sci-fi fantasy. He's Professor Brutenholm from the Hellboy world.
Oh, yeah.
Who creates the BPRD and is Hellboy's father?
Yeah, it's an archetype. It's the Professor X archetype, the dude that founded the Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, although Brutenholm was born around the same time, studied at Oxford, got a degree, worked in the paranormal society.
Because that archetype comes out of the spiritualism movement of, the Madame Blavatsky / Aleister Crowley, and then into the 20th century.
Yeah, and Tobin is just their version of that in the Ghostbusters world.
Your name is Tobin.
Not Toby. He went on to detail his adventures. Well, not really his adventures. He didn't even seem to write about that. Just cataloging different spirits and ghosts and gods that he dealt with and encountered. Yeah, and it seems that he wrapped up his study in the 20s when he was looking into Gozer.
Yep.
And the Ivor Shandor cult.
Well, see, all that makes sense because at that time, there was a lot of occultism. Because around that time, that's when you get, like, what was that? The one the Nazis believed in, the natural, unlimited energy that...
Vril?
Vril, there you go, yeah. Vril energy and inner...
My brain's so poisoned that just pops in there.
No, we are both poisoned. We are both geek-pilled at this point.
Yeah, it's the best pill to take, honestly.
No, it is way better than the other alternatives, that's for sure.
Yeah, they tried to, design machines based on Vril energy.
Yeah, and then they kept trying to demonstrate them, and then they never worked because obviously they wouldn't work.
Well, they didn't retain their semen enough. That's the problem.
Oh, that's true. Too much masturbation. Or not enough sex magic. I mean, think about it.
Oh, I'm thinking.
Maybe if you had banged that underage boy, you might have had enough vril to get that ship off the ground.
The forbidden fruit that didn't let the spaceship go to the center of the Earth to visit the reptile.
That's right. If you had just Blavatsky'd all over that dude's face, you might have actually gotten there.
So the Joy Division meets Wavelsburg Castle.
Continue.
Yep, going great. Yeah, so essentially he... Apparently he missed the deadline for his book, eventually finished it and put it out in 1920.
Mm-hmm.
And, it went underground and became one of those hidden tomes and grimoires that we speak of.
It became a chud.
It did. He had a buddy book called Bud.
Oh. Wasn't that also the name of the zombie in Day of the Dead?
Bud the Zombie?
What was his name?
Day
I
of the
can't
Dead?
remember. Remember there was that they had almost a pet one.
Jeez.
It doesn't matter. That's
maybe
the weakest of those movies.
Honestly, it became just for them in their world something they could go to, which is why it was just referenced along all these other pseudo-real events in the actual Ghostbusters dialogue in the film. So when I was a kid and I saw that, and they referenced the Tunguska Blast, well, that's a thing that happened.
It 100% happened, yeah.
That's real. They mentioned other real events, and it was like, okay, so there is a Tobin Spirit Guide. I got to find this thing.
Right.
And there was nothing to be found. As a sad child, there is no Tobin Spirit Guide in the real world.
No, it was a plot device, a MacGuffin.
It was, would they also say, what is it, Star Catalog?
Wait, what?
So when Dana goes to meet them and they're taking readings of her and they're like, we should look in the literature. And I believe they say the Star Catalog.
Oh, I thought they just meant Starlog, the magazine. Wow, that's a dated reference that no one gets, apparently. All right.
I mean, I got it, but...
None of the other people here.
Hey, you!
Little girl!
Get out of here. You're not supposed to be listening on our recording. But yeah, it's just a book in their universe that both Ray and Egon would later expand upon and shorten and digitize to be reference for all Ghostbusters in the future. I guess if you take an Afterlife, they probably have a entry for Egon himself now.
Yeah.
Within Tobin Spirit Guide.
It's probably like a wiki now in the Afterlife universe.
Tobin Spirit Wiki?
Yeah, really, though. I mean, that's probably literally what it would be.
Yeah.
Which is now canon, so.
Yep.
Yeah, sadly.
Yep. Just slowly draining away my enthusiasm for Ghostbusters year after year.
Oh, you mean just like all of the actors involved?
Yeah. I mean, if we could just do your own thing. I mean, at least I appreciated the all women one. It was like, let's just do our own thing. We're going to reference.
But it's bad.
It's not good. But at least I appreciate them for stepping out and doing their own thing. It didn't make good, but then I don't have to see these same tired characters and world crapped upon. I mean, neither are good, but I guess I'd rather someone step out and make their own thing than just regrind the old sausage.
I would agree with you if it were set in the same universe. But the fact that it's in a different universe, but still referencing the original and still using those archetypes and those story beats. If you're going to do it the way they did it, then either give me something so radically different that it's you could barely call it Ghostbusters, or make it an all-female sequel to Ghostbusters. But don't give me a half-assed in-between version, which is what they gave us.
No, you need a real Ghostbusters with a gorilla with a top hat.
No, the real Ghostbusters was that one. The other one was the original Ghostbusters, gorilla, top hat, of jalopy, what have yous.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the original Ghostbusters. Okay.
That's why Ghostbusters, the cartoon, called itself the real Ghostbusters.
Right, yeah.
Which is weird because Egon is a blonde. And it's funny, too, because I remember when Ghostbusters 2 came out, I bought the, I didn't buy it, but I was given the coloring book. And you could tell whoever they passed it on to illustrate had never seen Ghostbusters 1 or 2. Because they gave Ray Stantz a giant Tom Selleck mustache.
Nice. That's... Of the minimal information, I've given you just about everything, unless we go into the other alternate canonical histories of Mr. Tobin.
Why don't you just mention them briefly?
They're all fairly similar, but the timelines are different. Where he goes to school is different. Some of the ghosts he interacts with are slightly different.
How much of them are Lovecraft-oriented?
There's just some in there. There's some that are a little more Gozer-centric, just to tie it more into the actual story.
Originally, did you call him John Horace Tobin?
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay, good. That's what I saw, and I couldn't remember if that's the same name that you had.
No, it was the stupidest thing. Is like, is it John Horace Tobin or Jonathan Horace Tobin? That's the same effing thing. Who cares?
It's the same fucking thing.
The same thing. But when you have so little information, I guess that's what you quibble about.
This is one of my favorite things about the wiki. It says that it's a book that serves as a compilation of various supernatural occurrences, entities, and facts. The computer software version is very hard to find and is very expensive, period.
Yeah.
What is there, a CD-ROM of Tobin Spirit Guide out there?
Oh my God. Oh, there's a zip drive that you can't get your hands on.
It's a whopping 100 megabytes.
Whoa. Oh, kids, if you only knew.
If you only knew.
Yeah, so that's essentially Tobin's Spirit Guide. But if you happen to be a ghost within Tobin's Spirit Guide and you you just found yourself there, you might have your own handbook yourself. That would be the handbook for the recently deceased.
That is correct. As shown in Beetlejuice, a underrated and soon-to-be sequeled Tim Burton film.
Great. Yay, just what we need.
Just we need, going back to the well again of IP.
Maybe that's another thing. Pairing 1989 Keaton Batman with
Beetlejuice, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, Michael Keaton, he reigns supreme in that movie. He is peak Michael Keaton.
Oh, yeah. No, he's great.
He's doing the best Keaton he's ever done in that movie. Doing his thing.
I'm a fan of almost everybody in that film. I mean, look what Catherine O'Hara has done as of late, and like bringing her back.
Alec Baldwin's never done anything wrong.
He's a straight shooter, one might say.
Jeffrey Jones is a hero.
Jeffrey Jones has literally never diddled a kid or looked at child pornography, ever.
Or eaten a person.
Prove me wrong. No, you can't prove it.
Well, he claims to be ravenous. I don't know.
Try to prove this negative, my friends. You can't do it.
He was also in... he was that vessel for the Gozer character in Howard the Duck.
Was there... I don't even...
That's the premise.
Were they just doing a...
They were kind of doing a Lovecraft thing. As weird as that sounds. Yeah, so the whole thing was that Howard comes to our world because they had essentially the Zeta beam that brought Adam Strange from Earth to wherever in the Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers archetype. That's how Howard got here. And then they were still looking out and shooting it out, and it brought an ancient one, essentially. And it inhabited Jeffrey Jones, where he then touched children. And I mean, I'm guessing that was his defense in his trial, but I don't really know. But I wasn't there. Man, I'd like to see that.
Sorry, owning child pornography is the only way that mom and dad were going to save the world. So
that's how he became principal.
Ferris, give me that floppy disk.
Ferris, I'm going to wipe my hard drive, I swear. There's nothing flawed about that movie. Absolute genius.
Yeah.
Continue.
100%. So the handbook, there's very little known about the handbook for the recently deceased, mostly because none of us are dead.
Yeah, we're alive. Yeah, that's the problem.
It's tough. Mostly the only people who can read it are Strange.
What? Strange what?
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Well, no, she says that she's, strange and unusual. That's why she can read it, a live person.
Oh, you said about Lydia? Yeah, okay. Well, because she's a goth.
Says she picks up the book and starts reading through it.
Yeah, only goths can read it.
Yeah.
So, like, The Cure can read it. Billy Corgan. Marilyn Manson, yeah, but, like, you know, they kind of kicked him out of the group, too.
All right, at what point, if you're just dark emo,
yeah,
do you get the handbook powers at that point?
Well, I mean, there's a cutoff. Obviously, they laughed at Alkaline Trio and everything post that, but everything leading up to that, like 80s, emo, new wave, all the goth scene, even Duran Duran got access. They got early access. They got that code in the mail.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's pretty sweet, dude.
How can you do Rio and Hungry Like a Wolf and still get to read the handbook? It's a little too poppy and fun.
Do you realize how many people died from wolf attacks that year?
Was it the same year that the American Werewolf came out? Is that what happened?
Well, so a lot of them in London died from wolf attacks. So they were given access to the codex of the handbook for the recently deceased. Yes. Like David Bowie's son, they were given the source code.
Yeah. It's a manual, figuring out what to do when you're dead.
Mm-hmm. How to navigate that world.
Yep.
Do they talk about sandworms? Or is that just Beetlejuice?
I don't know if it's mentioned that it's in the book or not. I think it should be in the book.
Yeah, because that's a thing that could possibly happen. And every time I watch the first Doctor Strange movie, I keep thinking they're going to fucking end up on that fucking Dune-like world with the sandworms. Remember all the doors lead to a different world, and then one of them's like a sand dune world?
Right, yeah.
I kept thinking it was the exact one from Beetlejuice.
That would be better. I mean, the problem is it's just different doors to places on Earth. And I was like, it's a little boring.
Well, even in Beetlejuice, you're not sure until you see that goddamn claymation sandworm.
Well, it has multiple moons.
Oh, that's
true.
a
dead giveaway. I think it's like a purple sky and multiple moons.
Oh, so it's Tatooine.
If there's a bright center of the universe, you're on the planet that's farthest from.
I wonder if they make spice on Tatooine.
There are spice harvesters, I believe.
Those are evaporators.
I believe there are spice harvesters not in the Herbertian world, but in the Lucasian verse.
That's something we're going to have to tackle later. All of geekdom has been rocked to its core.
There's the spice mines of Kessel.
They do mention spice trading and spice smuggling, isn't it?
That's what Han Solo does. Yeah, he dropped a spice load at the hint of getting boarded by the Empire.
He was just talking about some prostitute he picked up, though.
It was a goth spice? That's who it was.
He dropped off that load.
Ooh, right in that, God, I'm trying to think of a Star Wars race.
Well, I was thinking the Sarlacc. Digest that.
You want to fuck a Sarlacc?
100,000 years or whatever. Yes, the great and mighty Sarlacc.
How are you getting hard around a Sarlacc?
Well, if you're one of those into pain.
Spike me, baby.
It's like an Iron Maiden for your dick, but alive and digesting you.
Oh, there has to be some like bag dragon-esque, because I know there is for an actual Dune sex toy.
Really?
Yeah, there is a Dune sandworm sex toy. My Google history is fucked.
You're on a watch list somewhere, I promise you.
I remember seeing it.
Maybe in your dreams.
It could have been. Quite possible.
Legitimately could have been.
I do come there quite often.
On your Dune books. Okay, we need to get to more of these.
Sorry, the term clit-sucking vibe kind of...
stunned you like a deer in the headlights?
I can't look away. I must explore further.
Like a siren calling you to the jagged rocks.
Yeah, so that's a book if you're a ghost, in a ghostly fantasy world.
Yes, I'd like to do a brief one called The Inside.
No.
Okay. Good night, everybody. I'd like to reference one. Well, no, I shouldn't get to that one yet. So let's go with and this is a deep cut for people Jake and I's age and older. You will recognize this from the television show DuckTales.
Woo!
Ooh, ooh, ooh. That was more Hall & Oates, really, than anything else. It really has...
Ooh, Hall & Oates doing the DuckTales theme song?
I've never thought about it, but it actually sounds like a Hall & Oates song.
Yes, please.
So we're referring to the Junior Woodchuck's Guidebook. This is a catch-all MacGuffin of nearly infinite knowledge that will achieve any goal or solve any problem in the Disney universe, specifically the branch of the Donald Duck lineage, which includes, of course, Huey, Louie, and Dewey, and Scrooge McDuck, which then, of course, leads to DuckTales and then Darkwing Duck. This book goes all the way back to the 50s. This was actually the 60s. This was something that they brought up in the 60s that DuckTales used in the 90s, and actually it really worked. So the whole idea is that it's based on the Boy Scout handbook. If any of you were Boy Scouts, the Boy Scouts of America guidebook, or the Boy Scout handbook, it was the same size as the guidebook and believed by all scouts to contain all necessary information. So they created sort of an apocryphal version of that could be any plot device. It's kind of the sonic screwdriver of books in the Disney universe.
Huh.
It had almost limitless and sometimes esoteric knowledge, and is very obviously a comment on the Scout Bible, which at one point was called Scouting for Boys, which might want to rethink that title. And it's important to remember that Scouting for Boys, originally by Baden Powell, it wasn't the official name, but that was what it was referred to. It was a book giving advice on a vast range of subjects, including smoking, quote, how the empire must be held, what? Courtesy to women, and, quote, how to revive a suicide.
How to what?
Yep. How to revive a suicide.
What?
I think you're missing how the empire must be held. I think that's probably the most important one we should focus on there.
No, that one I get. That one tracks.
So the Junior Woodchuck Guidebook. So the Woodchucks are basically the Boy Scouts of America. They are very similar. There's a Simpsons episode where they kind of deal with this too. That was the one that had Ernest Borgnine in it. I played Captain Fatso Jetsam from Here to Eternity. Yay! This comes from the wiki from it, which I think is very funny. Information is readily available by searching the extensive index. The key skill of a junior woodchuck is retrieving information quickly from the woodchuck book in the midst of dangerous situation, such as a grizzly bear attack, an earthquake, falling out of an airplane sans parachute, or being swallowed alive by a crocodile. However, in Karl Barks's story, quote, So Far and No Safari, from 1966, it took the ducklings so long to look up a life-saving question that it was almost too late. Scrooge subsequently offered to buy the junior woodchucks a better index for the guidebook. So, in Disney canon, Scrooge McDuck reset the guidebook, which is almost like Elon Musk buying Twitter, I guess. In that vein, the Boy Scout Guide was the inspiration for the Junior Woodchucks Guidebook, a series of several Disney books with tips, advice, and general culture and curious facts about life and nature, released in Italy by Mondadori in 7 volumes between 1969 and 1974, which was then translated into several languages. So apparently it was real.
What?
Yeah, well, we should look into that a little bit more. Yeah, essentially, the Junior Woodchuck's Guidebook was the storyline MacGuffin that would get you out of every jam. It would have whatever Deus Ex Machina information you needed to defeat whatever enemy. Any scrape you could possibly be in would be solved by the guidebook.
Because it was written with the lost history of Alexandria, right? From the library?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I don't remember. So if you have some, let me know.
I tried to, but the place I went to, my browser said, don't go there. It is bad for your computer.
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
But for anybody who watched DuckTales, you'll understand exactly why this was important.
I mean, if a woodchuck could chuck out a pod, that's probably what would happen.
You're a poet. You could write The Rubaiyat of Jacob Nelson. It's found on the Somerton Man.
Salt is salty.
Don't put salt in your eyes. Don't put salt in your eyes.
Oh, but I put salt in my eyes again. What has my mother always said?
Don't kill Danny. Don't kill Danny.
Must kill Danny. Okay. Yeah. Again, thank you for listening to us.
We're going to have a couple more of these at least because we have a lot of books to get to.
There's more books.
More books.
Yeah, so if you like these books, please rate us on the iTunes machine.
Books.com. Is that a thing?
Goodreads.
Amazon.
Good Listens. Good Pods. All of those websites.
Google Books.
Goop Pods. It's a little bit different service, but you'll like what you find.
Please rate us on Goop. That'll be advantageous for us.
It will definitely strengthen our kegels if you do that.
Rate us 5 jade eggs on Goop, if you would.
If you could rate us on baddragon.com, that would also help.
5 vagina candles on...
1 esophagus egg layer. That would be helpful.
On wish.com.
Oh,
.enya.
Does Wish have... They have to have fake sex toys. Or not fake, but...
Oh, they do. Oh, they do.
Cool. Very cool. Just like this pod. Which is also
super
very
cool.
Please like, share, subscribe. Again, give us 5 grimoires on the podcatcher of your choice. We would greatly appreciate it.
/Enya.Metallica.
Okay.
That's our official website.
It's our Fire Angel page.
It's our GeoCities site.
We have all of the best glyphs and
glyphs. I think you're in the wrong decade, my friend.
Somehow we were able to etch on stone and then digitize it. So
most of it's in Sanskrit. There is a Rosetta Stone for it, but you have to come over to our place to read it. Oink.
Yeah, only after 9 o'clock.
And then the number changes. That's the problem.
It really hasn't worked out well for us, but those are the rules we laid out. That's what the Cenobites told us at the beginning, and we haven't been able to change them. So,
if my wife answers, hang up quickly.
Prank caller.
So yeah, trust me, we've got a lot more to get to. We're going to get to all of the ones we possibly can before you guys are sick of it. So please make sure you have paid your tabs. Make sure you've cleaned after yourself to some sort of reasonable degree. Don't forget to tip your wait staff. And don't forget to support your local comic shops and retailers. And from Dispatch Ajax, we would like to say Godspeed, fair wizards. Nothing? We got nothing?
I don't have anything. I don't know.
Please, go away.